or not, or this morning.
Hello, and welcome to Making Sense of It. The making sense of it is making good sense out of reality therapy and choice theory. And I am Mona Duncan, your moderator. And our speaker for today is the renowned Wendell Walker. And he's going to be talking about uh, what can you do? You know, having the big question. There's all kinds of things that whatever your position in life is or whatever your dependability is, how can you handle it more effectively? And so Wendell's going to be sharing that with us today. It's going to start off with counseling. So welcome everyone. Welcome, Wendell. We'll turn it over to you.
All right. I'm looking for that handout as a counselor to come up.
One handout. Let me know.
The official title of my presentation today, welcome to Cleveland, to our friend from Cleveland, Dave, Dr. Dave. Go ahead, Mona, and go up down to the bottom of that handout.
Well, whatever was there didn't show. So you'll need to tell us what was it.
Okay, I'll read it. So I've got, there's 4 handouts today that I made years ago, and it's a template, and it says, as a blank, what do I have control over? So once you do one of them, the others, you just kind of change a few things around. So I'm starting with, as a counselor, what do I have control over? And I say at the bottom of the handout, as Dr. William Glasser writes and talks about choice theory, a choice theory explanation of human behavior, he says there are things we have control over and things over which we have no control. Being clear on the difference between these two categories helps us to make more effective choices. Well, that makes sense. And then look at the compatibility with the serenity prayer. God, help me to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change or try to change the things that I can, and then the wisdom to know the difference. And and a good counselor, a good helping person would always say to people, do you have any control over that? Can you change them? Can you blah, blah, blah? It's a wonderful core question, and choice theory psychology just explains why it works so well. All right, here's what. I'm asking all of you watching to have a piece of scrap paper and a pen. So if you don't have that at the moment, see if you can grab that up. Good morning, Sue. Good morning, Stephen. Good morning, Alice. While you're getting a pen and paper, I'm going to acknowledge a superb communication from Sue. All right. All of you got my, whether you've seen it or not, got my CTRT kind of email newsletter last night. And, had what I thought was a nice variety of things in it. And of course, then I say, WGI International Conference in Chicago next year, January 3 through 6. So as much proofreading as I try to do, I missed that one. And then Sue, with this soft kind of backing into it, a correction on me there, said, I believe it's July rather than January. Well, she knows that it's July rather than January, but I believe it's, oh, you're right. So then it's an interesting way too. So I will correct that the next time I send something out too. What I'd like to do, I'm going to go through these real quickly. I have 3 others today. We may touch on some of them. As a teacher, what do I have control over? As a supervisor manager, what do I have control over? As a parent, what do I have control over? And I have 10 others that I'll mention a little bit later. But here we go. As fast as you can be, I'm going to read these off, And if you think you have control over it, just write the number of the item down. I'm going to go fast. Number one, as a counselor, do I have control over the caseload assigned to me by my boss? Number two, don't be shaking your head and giving it away to the others. The others are on their own. Can I guarantee total confidentiality in therapy groups? Number three, do I have control over my own choices? Number four, do I have control over decisions that clients make? Number five, do I have control over attitudes of clients? Number six, I work in a facility or a group or what have you, maybe. Do I have control over the personality and management style of my supervisor? You know, the director of counseling or something. Number seven, do I have control over actively listening to clients? Number eight, do I have control over the laws and regulations of my profession? Number nine, do I have control over knowing and honoring ethical guidelines of counseling? Thank you, Mona is so good at this stuff. Number 10, do I have control over participating in continuing education and training? Number 11, do I have control over budget allocations to my agency if I'm not independently working, you know? Number 12, do I have control over whether or not I could be really, really good as a counselor? Do I have control over whether clients benefit from my counseling? 13, do I have control over client no-shows for appointments? 14, do I have control over self-evaluating my contributions to counseling? Number 15, do I have control over clients taking effective control of their lives? 16, do I have control over opening my mind to ideas and asking for feedback? 17, do I have control over clients paying their fees in a timely fashion? Number 18, do I have control over being non-judgmental, non-critical, and encouraging? Number 19, do I have control over complaints from clients and their family members? Number 20, do I have control over the quality of my counseling and communication skills? Bam. All right, fast. So here's what I want to do. I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I'll just start back at the top, Mona. Scroll back up. And I'd like to invite you. What you do here is jump in quickly before somebody else takes an easy one. All right, anybody at all, what's the first one that you had on the list, assuming that there were some on there that we had control over? Alice, is your hand up?
Yeah, the first one I thought would be I have control over my own choices.
Yeah, anybody else have that hand up? That's a no-brainer, isn't it? Yeah, good one.
Well, it's a brainer.
Yeah. Alice, see, that's a smart thing to do in a group. You jump in early with one that you
The
know,
easy ones.
and then you sit back because you've already done this. Now the others are going to struggle. Well, in this group, there's no struggle. All right, who else has one that you circle that you believe you have control over? Now, I also like to say in my groups, no penalty for, quote, guessing wrong or saying something else. We can have some fun with it. We're learning. In this group, we're pretty savvy about these things. I'll take an aside for a moment. I primarily would use these kind of things as I'm introducing choice theory, reality therapy, to new people, like a group of counselors that I've been asked to do a 2-hour presentation for. So they may not know much about choice theory. So I use it primarily as a discussion facilitator. And actually what I might do with them, not so much us, is give everybody a handout, let them go through and circle. Although I say to them, if you'd like to use this copy later on, make a copy and give out to others. Don't write on the copy. right on the side, but go through and circle all the ones or note the ones you think you have control over. And then a nice activity is to ask people to pair off with someone else and do a comparison. So then you've got some interaction with people, they're talking. And then you come back together and see what kind of consensus you've got. And then if there are things that are not quite fully agreeable, discussion on that too. All right, so that's how I might use that in a group, primarily with people not so knowledgeable about choice theory. Who's got another one that they believe that they have control over in this one here? Stephen's going.
Yeah, I thought 9, knowing ethical guidelines was within my control. I can know that.
Yeah, I have control. I may not be fully up to date or all of them. I may not know about Tarasoff case, and suicide and things like that. And I may learn new things, but I have control over finding it, knowing it, and honoring it exactly too. Are there any other, who else has got one? Somebody else, you got one that you thought you had control over. Sue's got one.
I said 7.
Number 7, actively listen to clients. Anybody else agree with that? Hand? Yeah, that's kind of good. Yeah, hands up. In a group, that's kind of good. Oh, everybody agrees on that one. Or it's interesting. Let's say there's 15 people in the group that you're training, talking to, and 7 or 8 of the hands go up, agreeing with Stephen, and some don't. Then you have the food for thought, and there's a phrase. I'm trying. Anyway, something for discussion. Good discussion back and forth. Who else has got one? Jump in quick before people take all your answers. What's another one you have control over, you think?
What about 14? Self-evaluating my contributions.
Yeah. I mean, this is a core thing of everything Glycerian, self-evaluation. Isn't it interesting how an outsider can say, golly, well, hey, I saw your presentation yesterday. What a nice job you did. And the person says, oh, I left out 2 things that I was going to talk about, and the person's doing like this. And so they're focusing on the 2 things that they messed up on rather than the 23 things that they did right. And so at the moment, they're unintentionally discounting my positive feedback to them. And I'm not insulted, but it's an interesting challenge then to do, All right. Any others? Sue's you got another one?
I said 10.
Do I have control over participating in continuing ed and training? Of course I do. Yeah. Now, maybe a conference is too expensive for my current budget or conflicting with it, but there are online courses, there are free things. It's just, I have control over that part and whatever. One of the things I like to say is reality therapy is given my current reality, physical health, emotional, cognitive health, financial capability, whether I got a car or not, whether I have skills. Anyway, people are doing the best they can within that, so to speak. And so there's certainly limitations there. But I do what I can given my current reality. Anybody have any others that they think they have control over? Surely.
16 maybe?
16.
Which one?
16.
I said 16 too.
Yeah, did you say maybe?
No, I mean, I just said maybe as a question to the group. I think it is.
All right.
I agree, Sharon.
Yeah, me too.
Wait, which number did you say, Sharon?
16, opening my mind to new ideas and asking for feedback.
The wording is, the wording on these, for anybody that knows a little bit about choice theory, and even people that don't, a brand new group, will really find the statements that are compatible with choice theory that we do have. It'll just, this is why choice theory, reality theory makes so much sense to people. People in master's course in counseling, reading the chapter on reality therapy, they say, oh my goodness, this speaks to me. This is exactly what I believe. And so it's a nice discussion starter, and it's not that big. Anything else? Do we have any others there?
I can't see 20 anymore, Wendell, but I put 20 down as something that I could
Mhm.
control.
Yeah, you were right on that too. And then I'm going to throw in 18.
Yeah.
I have control over being non-judgmental. I may or may not be that skilled at it at the moment, but I can become more skilled and more mindful of that. I can get counseling. I can go to training. I can be around, choose to be around positive people, and they model for me their non-judgmentalism. And yeah, I think we've covered most of them in there or got them. And others, you could, if somebody may bring up something. One of the things that always happens here is the issue, and we've had it. Go ahead, Mona.
Well, I'm just wondering if we need to focus so strongly on control, or the fact that we do have the ability to.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Say more about that, please.
Well, I mean, you can be in control harshly, but you can be in control gently, realizing that you have the ability to be in control over that, whether the other person receives it or not. As opposed to saying, because I believe this and I'm in control of this, you have to come along and, be exactly that way.
So how did you word it again, Mona? Instead of talking about being in control, to be
That I have the ability to.
the ability to be in control?
I have the ability to decide if I'm going to take any additional training. I have the ability to
Oh, okay. I see.
be open-minded to what my client is saying, or even my best friend is saying, even though, we may be on opposite sides of something.
Yeah.
Instead of setting up a control atmosphere that could,
Right.
because, one of the things is creating atmosphere that goes along with part of the reality, part of the therapy of the choices that we make.
Sure. And that's why people will start using other words that are synonyms. Do you have that? Do you have the ability to make that decision? Do you, is that something that you could figure out for yourself, or that you could choose one way or another?
And if you are undecided right now, are you willing to think about the fact that you do have that ability? And
you can go ahead, Sue.
Well, just from an issue of control, that's one that schools are very concerned with. Is your classroom in control? Are you in control of your classroom? And that is a word that's used very often.
That's right.
Just listened to a webinar the other day, and they didn't use the control word, they used the authority word. And they said it's important that teachers have a sense of authority and that students see that they are, and they weren't talking about it, they were talking about relationships, and they weren't talking about really getting at the kids, but they were talking about a sense of authority, that bottom line, it's your classroom. It's our classroom, but it's your responsibility. So they went on about that. But just with that in mind, Wendell, I don't know when I got, you had a number of handouts on control and just that kind of a list. And I think you had a book with handouts and whatever. Just so you know, I did use those all the time in my basic practicums, all the time. And what I added to it though was to say, are there any that you know you're not in control of, but you wish you were?
Oh, that's a nice.
And because you're not, what do you
Yeah.
do about that?
Yeah.
And that was
Mhm.
always, now again, I wasn't talking to newbies. I was talking to basic practicum people,
Yeah.
so they had some sense. But
Yeah.
so you already realize you don't have control over all of this.
Yeah.
Now what?
Yeah.
So it would prompt an interesting conversation. So just add that to the bailiwick if you
Yeah.
want.
And one of the
Right.
things that you do regularly, Mona, you soften things. You know, a nice go this way approach. I don't have to come right here. And just because I have control over these things, that doesn't mean I'm controlling.
Yeah.
Well,
For
it's
example,
relating.
and it
It's being
always,
relatable.
yes, yeah. And we've also had this discussion in some previous meetings. No, I don't have control, but can I influence?
Mhm.
There are times when I've got no influence whatsoever for whatever reason, but there are times when I can have some influence. Like I don't control the laws and regulations on counseling and ethical guidelines, what have you, but I could make an input. I could, I'm in the world of tennis, as you all know, and there are rules of tennis about equipment and play and scoring and good sportsmanship and what have you. And one of the players got a big penalty in one of the tournaments recently. They slammed the ball out of frustration and it hit one of the ball people. And they got a severe penalty from the referee. So I don't have control over the governing agency that dictates those laws, but I have the ability to suggest to them a modification in the law. I can advocate for it. I could write people. I could go get an appointment and speak to them. Within a gift, ideas come up all the time for training, for how much training, what hours, expenses, what time, and people can have input, may not have control over the ultimate outcome. All right, so we did that. Let's take a quick look. I'm just going to get a quick. Mona, if you would put up the handout on as a teacher. Por favor. S'il vous plaît. All right. Put your Evelyn Wood speed reading skills together because Mona is going to slowly scroll this up there and just read these. And you don't have to write anything down on these. Okay. School hours, parents' complaints, school dropout rates, actively listening, hiring and selection of other teachers, policies, expanding my knowledge and skills, the school curriculum, other teachers' work, asking for help, the scores of students on standard tests, the quality of my own teaching. Boom. Let's go to another handout, Mona. Let's go to a supervisor manager. And what we're talking about here is a boss, a lead manager versus a boss maybe. Okay, just running through quickly. Do I have control over absentee of employees, policies from up above, my own choices, attitudes of workers, opening my mind, my supervisor's personality, budget allocations, staff complaints, actively listening to employees, cooperation from other people, quality of my own communication. A lot of these are almost identically stated or slightly rewritten for each one. That's why templates are awfully good. Let's go to that last one, Mona. As a parent, what do I have control over? Again, put your speed reading skills through and just, we're not answering these or writing them down, but just to give a flavor. As a parent, do I have control over my child's behavior? Honesty from them. Do I have control over making them do their chores around the home? Interesting discussion there. My own choices, attitudes I have, actively listening, being non-judgmental, forcing my kids to accept responsibility. Do I have control over that? If we had control over kids in school, there would be no problems. The external control people believe that they can make kids do what you want them to do. All they have to do is randomly select one of 100,000 schools in the United States, randomly select a classroom, and there'll be some kid in there who's showing them that they cannot control him or her. And they don't believe it. So they try even harder. I don't know if Glasser originated this, number 17, catching kids as a parent or teacher in the act of doing things right, Do I have control over my kids turning out to be decent, responsible adults out in society? Some would think I don't have control over that. I certainly have input and influence, and I like to speak in probabilities. If I do these kind of things as a counselor, teacher, supervisor, parent over here, I increase the probability that clients, students, employees, my kids will choose to cooperate and function in fairly effective ways. I increase the probability. If I do these things over here, external control, the disconnecting habits, I increase the probability that they will choose to be non-cooperative and obstinate or what have you. I think that's the best we can do. I like math. All right, so that's it on the parent thing. The 4 handouts. I've got those. I've sent them to Mona. I could send them to you. What you would do is maybe I'll just send them anyway to everybody who's here. It's a small group. You're welcome to copy them, use them. You're welcome. Look how easy it would be now. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. I like to give credit to other people when they've done stuff that I'm kind of piggybacking on, but I'm giving you carte blanche now. If you find those helpful, copy them, make one of your own. Oh, I did this last night. According to the work that you do or things you're involved with, you can make up your own handout like this. As a divorcee, what do I have control over? You say you're in a divorcee group. Maybe you're a lay practitioner, a group leader, something like that. You could easily make up a handout. As a divorcee, what do I have control over in my life? As a person who's been physically, sexually assaulted, what do I have control over as a victim of that? Okay. As a politician, what do I have control over? We're seeing this battle right now, and as we get closer. As a family member of a person with Alzheimer's, what do I have control over? As a college professor, Dr. Dave, okay. As a board member in an organization, what do I have control over? The gifts we got here. As a volunteer, what do I have control over? Here's one. I'm doing training, CTRT. I talked CT and some other things, and I talk RT. Now I'm going to do a role play demonstration. So in the role play demonstration that I'm going to do, and Mona's done a lot of these with people and others too. In that demonstration in front of a small group of people, what do I, as the trainer, have control over? That's good to think, setting it up. Do I have control over if it's going to turn out to be really, really impactful? I've got a lot of influence on that, but people may be totally. It was always interesting. People would try to be the most obstinate that they could for Glasser, and when he made the one day at Lehigh University, they had doctoral students in counseling that put together a client scenario. They hired a female actress. They had 5 different people, well-known kind of biggies in the world of counseling and psychotherapy. And each day, one of them would present their approach and then do the role play with this same client. And so the same woman came every day. And that was interesting to see the different styles of people. I had a little bit of an offshoot there. So those are other places that you could do your own little handout, customize there. And so, what do I have control over? What do I not have control over? Let me focus on the things that I can. In fact, that's the number one thing that Glasser says in a true conflict. And I can do nothing. I can do nothing there. Let me turn in my life and say, what do I have control? Hi, Nancy. What do I have control over? And what can I do a little bit of? Well, I can't do anything at all about this situation. I'm going to the gym for an hour. You know, I'll come back later and deal with it. But is there anything that I have control over that I can do to get a little bit of something, you know, in one of my need things? All right, control over, not control over, influence. And one of the things that Mona has pointed out, I have control over things, and then there's a way to exercise that control that may bring others into the fold or not. All right. Thank you very kindly. I'll be done.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Wendell. We appreciate that very much.
So,
So,
thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
So we have more control many times than we realize. And so it is always realizing that we have choices, and those choices can put us back in control no matter what the situation is. And sometimes it can be as simple as just gently walking away while continuing to hold the discorders in high regard. So anyway, thank you for being here, and many blessings to all.